Hi. It's a little bit
Hi.
difficulty connecting tonight. Sorry. Um, okay. So are we up to the Dalit?
You're Dalit.
Okay. So, Kachizas Apshat Vasod Zeh Bazeh. That's like an interesting topic. Like that was another very long one. No. So. Kachizas Apshat Vasod Zeh Bazeh. Just like Pshat and Sod hold on to each other. You Yisod Achdus Tersh B'Ksav and Tersh Ba'Peh. The Tersh B'Ksav and Tersh Ba'Peh have this grip on each other. Now, still close to Pnimis, the inner look, which presumably is Torah Sheba'al Peh, with the outer look in the world, B'chaim, in life, B'mtzius, in reality, B'msibos, in causes, B'signon, in style, B'adam, in man, B'avayon, and in existence, uh, Cain, and also he's the Achdus Hanes V'Ateba. So it was the grip between miracle and nature. And Haga Kamochem Bemuna. How Israel conducts the world and also in our belief in how the world functions. Haisam Kusachoderes, the penetrating, in-depth perspective. Macheret as Nifrodim joins those things that are separate. Mashibhav Shvila Benoni, Mashashvila Benoni Mafridom. With the average pathway separates. I guess for the average perspective, these things look disparate, separate, and from a more profound perspective, these things unite. Orosh HaMashiach, the light of Mashiach, she saw the Ramban Yisrael Gavama, whose basis is high and lofty, very high. More Me'atochen Elyon, it is illuminated from the inner content. Shanes V'Teva Muchadim Sham, from where miracle and nature are united. In other words, Mashiach, or Mashiach is one where Nes and Teva will come together. Therefore, all the plot, all the pathways, the steps of nature, um, from small to big, work together with for Mashiach and with Mashiach. Aido Bashbaso through him and by his influence. Kmo Halilos and Isio, it's just like any other miraculous pathway. Hamasim kulam amdim mitzura ubaris. All activity in this world is in a state of pregnancy. Kol havaya kula, all existence is nishmos efrachim obetzim, is the souls of chicks or eggs. V'roch l'chim ra'achev esleim, and the divine spirit floats over them. Mashiach ganusu beken sipor. Mashiach is hidden in this nest. Zaychalo, and this is his sanctuary. Says Baal Shem Tov went up to Shemaim to the Heichal of Mashiach, as I'm sure, as an honorary Lubavitcher, you're aware.
I don't think they'd have me.
What?
I don't think they'd have me.
Oh, that says there's the famous letter Baal Shem Tov wrote to Reb Gershon Kitteber. On Rosh Hashanah he had Aliyas Neshama, and he went from Heichal to Heichal in the Loma Sulyanim until he came to the Heichal Shemashiach and said to Mashiach, Le'emasai ka'atzei mar. Doesn't ring a bell?
No.
Oh, it's a song. Masai ka'atzei mar. Yafutsu. No clue. Okay, I guess you're not yet an
I
honorary.
only daven there. That's it.
Okay. So, so that when the Baal Shem Tov wrote this letter, it's a letter we actually have. We possess this letter.
Uh-huh.
So you can only there are only once you see this letter, there are only two options about the Baal Shem Tov. Either he was a very, very holy man, or he was an extraordinary charlatan. There are no other options. Because he says he went up to Heichal Shem Mashiach and spoke to Mashiach. Mashiach asked Mashiach, when are you coming? And Mashiach said, She'efutzu ma'anesech chutzu yedu lasos kulam yichudim k'moischa. When your well springs will spread forth, usually they stop the song there because that's very exciting. The rest of the statement is very depressing. It says when everybody's going to be able to make yichudim, esoteric kabbalistic unifications like you. So basically means who who knows when. So but so the Heichal Mashiach that the Baal Shem Tov, the Kook is referencing here. I don't know if he's referencing it. On account of the letter of the Baal Shem Tov, probably not, because there are other sources for Heichal Shel Mashiach. But the point is that he's saying the Heichal of Mashiach is a nest where things are in embryonic stage, where things are developing over time. And that embryonic stage is where everything is, all of existence is like eggs or chicks, and there's a divine spirit, and Mashiach is in that nest, and that's his heichal. And the chicks develop and grow. And the eggs become heated. And they become coming closer to the form of existence of life and their ultimate um, not activity. Foal is like mission in this world. It's also the wrong translation, but something along those lines. Um, B'klolos hakol kalul, and it's just like an embryo. Everything is present in the embryonic stage. So too, everything is present in general already in this embryonic stage, which Mashiach is still in the nest. Hakol everything is active. Leisugam kol kochos hasholim, even all the powers that negate Shagam Haman starving Lotikle say, which are necessary in order to bring out, create a vessel. Have to have things which negate and are negative in the sense that they have to remove that which is unwanted and undesired and so on. They're also necessary just like the positive forces. Kol the shololim, the negative forces, shem mitzdarvim elakol, they join with everything. Lasos is hatzivyon shel mator elyon to make the character of the upper purpose. So of course he's referring to the negative forces in this world, which we think are absolutely negative. They too have a positive mission in this world because they're all part and parcel of this development over time, this messianic development, which things are being generated according to the plan in this embryonic stage to eventually produce what will be a perfected vessel, a perfected entity. Um, Sham Amikidasam Ora Chiyuvis Al Leona Gnuza. There in the depths of their going down, like in the depths of what we think is negative, there is a positive light hidden. Rav Kook was a very big optimist. I probably mentioned this many times in the past. Rav Kook did not see the Holocaust. Rav Kook could afford to be an optimist. 1935, when he died, things looked like they were gradually building in a positive way. So even the negative forces, one could be confident that they were going to have a positive outcome. One could make the argument after the Holocaust too, but it's much more difficult because obviously the negative forces which were unleashed in the Holocaust are things Rev Kook could never have perceived and probably would have had himself a hard time seeing them as embryonic forces of good. But who knows? Probably could have actually uh, come to that conclusion. Um, so the Tachas Oni Anora, underneath the terrible poverty, Osher Elyon, Ganuz V'chai, there is a very high wealth which is hidden and alive. Kutchabrichu B'chad Meskena, Hem Yoshim Echel Kan Sipor. The Kadosh Baruch Hu, when one poor person, the Chad Meskena is a reference to Mashiach. Mashiach is called a poor person sitting in the gates of Rome. So there is this. They are together in the Heichal Ken Sipor, in with all the forces, both positive and negative, creating the generating these birds out of the eggs and chicks. Torah Leiv Hayodim Rasa the Mila de Shtusa. The people of pure heart who know the secret of the words of stupidity or silliness. The this Mila de Shtusa is reference also to Gemara Ksubis, where it says that I think it was Rabbi Zera who was Merakid Lifnei Akala in a very frenzied way, and it says Hani Shtusa Lamar. There's certain things which seem to be foolish. There's certain to be um, uh, 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 Shtusa. We even translate often as stupid, but they are also no less part and parcel of the purpose of the Bria. And they themselves, Vechi mitzarefes, they join together. Raza de Chachmasa. Oh, Rabbi Nasaba. Here it quotes. It's not Rabbi Zera. It's Rabbi Nasaba. That's who it was. Okay, Luna Saba, who the shtus which he did was considered to be an extraordinarily high thing, and it means evidently that there are certain times in this world when that which looks like craziness is laudable behavior. And how could we understand it? Not necessarily always. Perhaps there we could understand it because but he's saying that there is this idea that shtus the mar helps and is an effective way of reaching with chachma to places where chachma might not otherwise penetrate. And it has to be melubash in shtus in order to reach the people who are only going to be reached by shtus. So therefore, the idea is that obviously sometimes kedusha. I'm just extrapolating what I think what he would say is that sometimes kedusha takes the form of um, something which seems to us to be crazy, like secular Zionism. And it's like basically a variation of the theme of where Eliyahu Navi appears like a hippie on a train. So if you're a Kalabachian, so so the idea is that the places where, in order to bring the light that deep, you have to appear with shtus. Um, uh, and dying behind Migdala, and
W-
they,
Would you say that shtus is lower than even Ra?
I don't know if it's lower, but it's down there.
It's down there. Okay,
Yes,
very
because
good.
Ras, it's much easier to see Ra as the hefech of Tov.
Right,
Therefore, two sides of the same coin. It's much harder to see Shtus as the
right,
opposite of Tov, right? So that's
right,
right. So
right.
it's yeah. So
Yes.
it's something which is
Even Ra has some reason left to it, whereas
right,
shtus is but beyond reason.
right. So you have to say you could say that Shtus is the flip side of Chachma, but it's not an easy concept. That's what he says here though. He says Torah Levi Yodim Rozim Mishlu Soy Ve'echim Mitzarefes Le'ir Rosa the Chachmasa. So Tov and Ra, Chachma and Shtus are the two flip sides of two different coins.
I see.
Um, they done by Migdala, and they live in this tower. And it says this is a Kabbalistic concept of, Am Yisrael lives in the tower, which is the top of the Lamed. Like the prince, like Rapunzel, lives in the tower. This actually is it's good. It's the princess living in the tower is the Kabbalistic story. So she doesn't let down her golden hair, but there's this idea that Amiso lives in this Migdala, and so at the same time, it comes down into this world. It's also up in Shemaim, and Mistachim flows to mean Deim Bori Shuasa. And they look at the wonders of the perfect in his wisdom in the light of his salvation. So, Chavle Mashiach HaPnimim, the internal turmoil of Mashiach, Hem Chavle Mashiach Atzmo. The internal, I don't know if he's talking about internally in a specific person, but it seems that way. In other words, obviously it's Chevle Mashiach, which is the extrinsic, but it seems they say, but even in an individual himself, let's see. Harido Mamoke Asibos, going down into the depths of the causes. Shokol Amochin, of the katnus of all the states of, obviously, Hasidic Kabbalistic concept of the small-mindedness. Hashem Yisui Chenek, which are suffocating afflictions. Lucha the Malcolm Mashiach to the spirit of the King Mashiach. The Galusa Basua B'Seife, at the end of this last Golus, at the very end of this last Golus. So there's the Moichin the Katnus are terrible, the small-mindedness of people at the time of Ikvasad the Mashiach, just before Mashiach comes, is terribly Yisurin to people you know, who who want to perceive greatness and are yearning for greatness. But he's saying it's necessary for the Ruach and the Malchus Mashiach in the Golus to be enclosed in this Mochen Dekadus. Hamasaka is saying when the last steps are being prepared. Asher cherfu evecha Hashem, asher cherfu echus miushecha. When people are mocking you, Hashem, your enemies mock you, they're mocking the footsteps of Mashiach. Baruch Hashem li olam, amen v'amen. Hashem is blessed forever. So he says, this is a new type of Yisurin. Mochin the Katniss is a new type of Yisurin. That's a fascinating piece. Yisurin skila ayu b'chol tkufa. The afflictions of stoning, That we undergone. So the Kol Kubash Avodah Zarah, when Am Yisrael worshiped Avodah Zarah, B'charos, and all the bad things it did, Haridus Vatum Tumim went down and made itself um, um, the fool did conduct itself foolishly. Hapros, hapnimius, chitzonius, shemanafea, and the disturbances which are internal and external, which are a result of avodah zarah, a branch of avodah zarah, that we suffered. Yisroel Sreifa. Yisroel Sreifa, the afflictions of burning. Hachubanos, destructions, Vagzeros, and Malchusios, the Torah, and the governmental decrees against the Torah. Sreifas, the Torah, the literal burning of the Torah. Vashmanas, and Naros, and terrible Shmad. Shumechuvanos, Chulanas, Gekias, and Neshama, Pnimius, which are intended to uproot our Neshama and our internal self. Sreifas, Neshama, Guf Kayam, and even sometimes they burnt the outer, based on Mikdash, right? The sometimes the bird tried to burn the neshama, which is worse, even though the goof would be exist by shmad. Yisrael him kol aregos. Then we had the Yisurim of killing, all the killings. I mean, I'm sure that's the strange killings, defos, and all the external persecution. But mamad hakakol economically, the consuming of our harvests and our bread and our children, sons and daughters. All those Yisurim, Am Yisrael has gone throughout the various different Goliaths which it's undergone. But these are new Yisurim, the Yisurim of Katnus the Moichin, the Yisurim of the just before Mashiach, and these are Yisurim Chenek, which at least makes them the lowest down in the level. Because Chenek is the lightest of the Misa spacing. But hey,
Hmm.
Yisurim Achem Sharidas Or Makim, when the light goes down in the depths, Lachsov Sibos Tanos Lachsov Sibos Tanos Kalos, to find small and light causes, in other words, subtleties in the redemptive process, which are not apparent and which are sometimes counterintuitive. In oats tikvos and merchakim to uh, to what's the word, to hang.
To to
What?
advise, to
What?
advise, to
No, no,
advise.
no, no,
No.
no. Like it's when you bang a nail in the world in the wall. That's called the itza.
Ah,
To um,
to nail down the
yeah,
belief in
yeah.
in in things which are far away.
Yes. Umaros manios, and in temporary events, Mentios Lev Shom Moshlim, and contemporary events, I guess, like the inclination of different governments, like the Zionist movement first tried the Ottomans, then the British, then the Germans, actually, then the British. Marish Stadios Politios, and all these small things like political machinations. So all these things are Yisroel Chenek because they suffocate the mind. So he said they're necessary. Lora gam kitnei ruach, to arouse also those who are small in spirit. Shenan kim matros krovos mugushamos mutzumtzamos. That we should have to interact with and influence those with very short-sighted goals, very materialistic goals, and very narrow goals. Vakatnus mecholeles es chutzpah, and this small-mindedness gives instigates chutzpah. Chevel hamachnak achuza tzavar, and that chutzpah also is part of the suffocating rope on the neck. Monea said the dibor, it curtails our capacity to speak. So this is Avir and stops up the air. Okay, Rak Ruach Hashem Asher Lamo, only the Spirit of God which is on his nation, or Torah Pnimis, the light of the inner Torah, which he spoke about at the beginning, which is grips onto everything. So obviously here we have the same grip of Laura Torah Pnimis with all this Katnus Samoichin. You'll feel Shiv Rucha de Mashiach. That will appear to bring back the spirit of Mashiach. Utoch Hafeli Avil Argodo. Have darkness bring a
Wow,
great light. That's a very powerful piece, a very beautiful
that
piece.
is that's by far the most beautiful piece that I recall.
Yes, but it's interesting that he doesn't tell us how the Katnus Demochin is actually going to be a benefit so much as that it's something which we have to suffer through. In other words, yes, evidently we have to go because people in the time of Mashiach are going to be so dumb and stupid and coarse and vile. So somehow we have to deal with this coarseness and vileness, and somehow it's a way. The Torah has to find a way. The Ruach Mashiach has to find a way to actually deal with the shtus. Right? There's obviously he's saying Ikvus and the Mashiach. There was lots of rishus in the various different Yisurim. Now we have the Yisurim of shtus. It's all 100% true, of course. The Yisurim also have their purpose. So
Right.
I think it's very it's there's a beautiful piece from Rav Zebin about this. Rav Zebin says that the idea of Ikvus and the Mashiach is that the heel is very coarse. The, the first generation Dor is called the Dor Dea. It's the head. The head is very sensitive. By definition, all those senses can have very little protection because they have to be able to operate. And therefore, they're very sensitive. And if they go off the derech, even a little bit, if they're harmed a little bit, they're going to have devastating results. The heel is very coarse and thick. It's hard, especially it's encased also usually in a shoe. So it's very hard to actually harm the heel, right? But it's coarse and thick and dumb. So he says the mila of the Dordea is that they were Dordea. They had Dea. The chisaron is that they were when they sin, it was very devastating. The ramifications of the sin were very great. The door Ikvus and Mashiach, not too bright, not too wise, but the sins don't affect them so much. They're able to withstand the sins and temptations which the earlier generations have not been able to withstand because they have this dullness about them. So, and there's Rebbe Abunim Parshis comes down a few times. He says, he was once asked, how can you expect Mashiach to come in later generations which are so low? In previous generations, he didn't come. So what he said, and some places he just quotes it, some places he actually explains it, says, even though the generation is going lower, the Nakuda Pnimis is going higher. And when Tzug does explain it, what he usually says is that, again, it's this idea, the Nakuda Pnimis has to be so high in order to confront all the Tumah and from we would add according to Kook, all the shtus, which goes on in Achris Hayomim, right? There must be a really powerful Nakuda Pnimis. If people can still retain any degree of sanctity, any degree of Kedusha, any degree of Torah in our day and age. So I think this is a part of what Rav Kook is saying here. In other words, the Nakuda Pnimis is very powerful in this generation because it has to contend and it's much more concealed. It's behind a very thick and dull covering, but it's much more powerful and it is able, therefore, to go down and have an impact in places where otherwise it wouldn't have had an impact.
I was talking with my sister yesterday, and we were talking about all the things going on, the wars and everything. And as she said, nothing makes sense anymore. In other words, we're supposed to just let them come and kill us all because that's what we're supposed to do. That's what the world feels, they should do to us, and we should allow them to do it to us because that's the way the world makes sense now. It doesn't make any sense, you know.
Yeah, but I don't think that's
Then,
what Rav Kook is referring to. I think Rav Kook is referring to to Chiloniyut. He's not referring to. I think his concern here is with the rest of the world. It's not one of the universal pieces. This is one of
uh-huh.
the pieces which has to do with Chiloniyut and lack of the assimilation of Am
Mm-hmm.
Yisrael and
Mm-hmm.
how Am Yisrael internally has all of the shtus with which we have to contend. And you have to understand that the neshamas, which have this great shtus, they also have a tremendous koyach panimi, which somehow Torah is supposed to connect to and eventually bring out. That whole shtus is given to them as a dullness, as a defense mechanism to help
I see.
protect to help protect them, that they should be able eventually to bring Torah to the most ridiculous places and be able to function that way. So I think that that's more of the case here, not the nations of the world aspect. Just
I
my
see. Very nice. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you.
okay, very good
Very
piece.
good.
Shkoyach.
Shkach, thank you very much.
Okay, have a good night.
Have a good night.